Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cybersecurity Whisperer. I'm Elliot Franklin, and wow, catching up on many weeks being out, so we've got to talk about how the industry has collectively lost its mind in ways that were both very real and very overhyped. So we'll start with the Vercel breach. So let me tell you about a Roblox cheat code that compromised a major cloud platform. Now, here's what actually happened at Vercel, if you haven't already heard. And I want you to pay close attention because this exact playbook is going to show up in your org or your client's environments. So here's how the stage was set. A third-party vendor, Context.ai, they had an employee who downloaded a Roblox cheat. That then downloaded LumaStealer, which is an infostealer malware. Now, the malware grabbed every credential sitting in that employee's browser. From there, attackers walked into Context.ai systems, found an OAuth token that a Vercel employee had previously connected to their Google Workspace, and used it to pivot directly into Vercel's environment. Now, here's what's frustrating. The Vercel employee had granted allow all permissions when they set up the Context.ai integration. One developer, one overly permissive OAuth grant, one infected laptop at a vendor, and suddenly you've got a breach at a platform that's hosting thousands of production environments. And then the messaging. Now, I understand it's sometimes easy to look back and kind of play, Monday morning quarterback, but Vercel said, sophisticated attackers, AI accelerated. It seems like that might be spin, because encryption at rest doesn't help you when the application that's accessing the data is already compromised. So, this wasn't a novel attack. It was credential theft, through OAuth abuse and then pivoting. Same play, different stage. So here are your action items that you can do right now. You should audit every OAuth grant in your environment, and any that have allow all really need to be disabled or really put under heavy scrutiny. Third-party SaaS vendors, we've been talking about this. They're an extension of your attack surface. Do you know what they can reach in your AWS or your Google Workspace environment, your 365 tenant? And then you need to make sure you're marking your environment variables as sensitive in every platform that supports it. Certainly Vercel is doing this now. Next, let's talk about the supply chain meltdown between Bitwarden and also Checkmarx that they experienced. If you ship code, any code, stop what you're doing and listen. A threat actor group called Team PCP, they hijacked the Bitwarden CLI package on NPM. They pushed a malicious version, 2026.4.0, and then that quietly downloaded a runtime that hunted for everything of value. Think about GitHub tokens, AWS Azure credentials, SSH keys, and yes, even your Claude and MCP configurations. Now, it exfiltrated everything encrypted, and if the primary channel was blocked, it just pivoted to GitHub itself, staging stolen credentials and commit messages and creating repos under victim accounts to upload the data. Now, this is the exact same attack pattern that Checkmarx's kick scanner hit twice in a month. So it's not a fluke. It's really a campaign, and if you're pulling packages from NPM or PyPy without controls, you are exposed. Now, there are two problems here. Outbound integrity, can your developers accidentally or under coercion push malicious code? And inbound integrity, can your org pull malicious packages? Most security programs haven't locked down either one properly. So again, if you can't describe your inbound dependency validation story end to end, you might not have one. Registry allow listing, SBOM tracking, pinned log files with signed dependencies. These are table stakes now, not advanced practice. So again, if you're a developer, you need to check now, your Bitwarden CLI 2026.4.0, if that is installed anywhere in your environment, you need to treat that system like it's fully compromised. Pin your actions by SHA, not by tag. Tags are mutable, but SHAs are not. Implement sockets-free NPM firewall or equivalent in your pipeline. There's really no excuse. And require OIDC-based secret list, CIs there. Stop injecting long-lived tokens into pipelines. Okay, let's talk about the story everyone's been losing their minds over. Anthropic's Mythos, the AI model. Now, here's my honest take. Look, of course the capability is real. An AI agent that can autonomously find vulnerabilities in complex, large code bases including a 17-year-old FreeBSD, RCE, and a 27-year-old OpenBSD vulnerability. I mean, that matters, not because AI is coming to end the world, but because it compresses timelines. The window between vulnerability discovery and exploitation certainly is continuing to collapse. Now, we used to talk about days, and we're now talking about hours and sometimes less. But here's what I want to push back on. The irony of the Mythos story is that unauthorized access to the model itself came through a leaked contractor credential and URL pattern guessing. The most advanced AI hacking tool on earth got access because someone's contractor credentials leaked and the API endpoint, it wasn't properly protected. That's not a Mythos problem. That's basic identity hygiene, the same problem we've been talking about for a decade. So the CSA published, the Cloud Security Alliance, they published a solid Mythos-ready security program brief. Now, the core guidance in there was to reinforce segmentation, tighten your egress filtering, phishing-resistant MFA everywhere, right-size your IAM, and make sure you're doing tabletop for simultaneous credential incidents, having more than one at the same time. None of that's new, but the urgency is. Mean time to exploitation, it's now under 1 day in 2026. So if you're not doing these basics at speed, of course, the timeline has already passed you. So what's your team's current mean time to patch a critical severity CVE? That's kind of what you need to be asking yourself. The one that I want you to sit with for a second, because it's not just a crime story, it's a trust story. Now, there was Angelo Martino was a ransomware negotiator at Digital Mint. Companies hire people like him to sit across the table from extortionists and fight for the victims. And while he was doing that, he was texting the Black Cat ransomware group with information about the victims' insurance limits and negotiation strategy. He and two colleagues from separate firms extracted $25.6 million from one financial services firm, nearly $27 million from a nonprofit, and then they paid Black Cat a 20% cut and just pocketed the rest. So, this is an insider threat story, and it should make you rethink who you bring into your incident response process. Now, when you're in a breach, when you're scared, under pressure, the clock is ticking, you bring in third parties with enormous trust and access. Do you have any visibility into what they're doing with the information you share? Again, every third party you bring into an incident response, IR firm, legal counsel, PR firm, ransomware negotiator, they've got access to your most sensitive information at your most vulnerable moment. So what's your vetting process? What's your monitoring? What I'd love you to think about is vet your IR and your negotiation partners, hopefully before you need them. We've been saying this for years. Credentials, references, conflicts of interest, check them all in advance. And then compartmentalize what third parties can see. Not every IR partner needs your full financials or insurance details up front. And then, of course, log and monitor third-party access during incidents, just like you would an employee. All right, let's bring it home. 4 stories this week, but one really line that should resonate with us. Look, the attacks landing hardest right now, they're not exotic. They're credential theft, OAuth abuse, unvetted dependencies, insider access. As we've said over and over, these are the fundamentals. So here's your challenge this week. Pick one thing, just one from today's episode, and do it this week. Audit your OAuth scopes. Pin one GitHub action by Shaw. Check your dependencies for Bitwarden CLI 2026.4.0. Whatever your one thing is, drop it in the comments, and then come back next week and let's talk. That accountability loop, that's how we actually move the needle, not by watching more content, by doing the thing. Again, I'm Elliot Franklin. This has been the Cybersecurity Whisperer. Hit subscribe, share this with one person on your team who needs it, and I hope to see you next week.